*3 on your telephone keypad at any time. Please note this call may be monitored, recorded, or rebroadcast. Your RTD Interactive Town Hall will begin shortly. RTD Interactive Town Hall is currently in music hold. In a few minutes, you'll get first-hand information.
Good evening, and thank you for joining this live virtual telephone town hall meeting hosted by the Regional Transportation District, also known as RTD. I'm Roger, and I'll be your moderator tonight as we have a conversation with RTD Director Doug Tisdale, who represents District H, which includes the cities of Cherry Hills Village, Greenwood Village, Centennial, Littleton, Columbine Valley, and Highlands Ranch. We also have agency staff joining us to answer your questions, and they'll introduce themselves during the call. Tonight we will be covering several topics, including customer safety initiatives, RTD's fare study and equity analysis, current recruitment efforts, and the next steps for Reimagine RTD. This is your opportunity to share your thoughts about RTD and ask questions. If this is your first time on a virtual telephone town hall, here's how it works. To ask a question, just press *3 on your telephone keypad, and you'll be transferred to an operator who will take down some basic information and get you in the queue. Once the operator has your information, you can listen to the conversation until it's your turn. And then when I call your name, please repeat your question for our live audience. Since we want to answer as many questions as we can tonight, please be brief when you ask your question. If you are participating online at rtd-denver.com/town hall, you can ask a question or take part in polls directly from the streaming player. And folks on the phone can also view the slide deck on social media on YouTube. If you're watching our live stream or on social media, you can submit your questions as a comment. We want to hear from you too, so just type your comment in and we'll get them in and get them on the air. In addition to answering questions live, we will be asking for survey questions during the call, and I'll explain that process later. So it's now my distinct pleasure to introduce District H Director Doug Tisdale. Director, thanks for joining us tonight.
Well, thank you very much, Roger. It's my privilege to be here and a pleasure to be able to speak to constituents and non-constituents alike. I want to say good evening to all of you, and I thank you for joining our conversation here tonight. As Roger said, my name is Doug Tisdale, and I am the RTD Director for District H. Now, I'm a former mayor also. I was the mayor in Cherry Hills Village, and I was elected to the RTD board in 2016, and then re-elected to the board in 2020. You may not know this, but there are only 3 transit boards in the United States that have elected directors. The other 2 are BART, the Bay Area Rapid Transit in San Francisco, and the Alameda-Contra Costa County system in Northern California. In addition to being the director for the RTD, I had the privilege of serving 2 terms as the chair of the RTD board. I also serve as the chair of the Transit Board Members Committee at the American Public Transportation Association. Now, that's the association that represents all of the transit agencies in the country, and I'm responsible for communicating and speaking for over 4,000 transit board members across the country. So I'm excited to answer your questions tonight and to share some important updates with you with the assistance of our incredibly capable staff. To remind you of what Roger said, to ask a question, please press *3 on your telephone or enter your question or comment online. Now, Roger, I was thinking, before we actually get into our first topic here, I always like to know a little bit about the audience that I'm speaking to. So perhaps we could start off with our first survey question to get a taste of our audience. Roger?
You bet, Director. Let's do that. As Director Tisdale just mentioned, we would like to learn a little bit about those who are joining us tonight, and it's really easy to participate. All you need to do is use your telephone keypad to enter the number of your response. If you're participating online, please type or click your response. So here's that question. How frequently do you ride RTD services? Press 1 for every day, press 2 for once or twice a week, press 3 for once or twice a month, Press 4 if you ride a few times per year, and press 5 if you do not currently ride any RTD services. Go ahead and record your vote now. I'll share the results with you in just a minute. And again, if you have a question or comment for Director Tisdale or any of our staff, just press *3 on your telephone keypad. Or if you're participating online at rtd-denver.com/townhall, you can ask a question or take part in polls directly there on the streaming player. There has been a lot of news coverage about safety concerns in the Denver metro area. I'd like to ask Steve Martingano, Interim Chief of RTD's Transit Police Division, to introduce himself and talk a little bit about what RTD is doing to help improve safety on transit and at RTD stations and bus stops. Chief, welcome.
Well, thanks, Roger. Pleasure to be here. My name is Steve Martingano. As mentioned, I'm the Interim Chief of Police for the RTD Transit Police Division. I've been in law enforcement for 29 years, started my career for NYPD, came out here on the in the Rocky Mountain area. I worked for Arvada PD as well as Denver PD, and I came over to RTD's Transit Police Division about 6.5 years ago. One of the things that we heard about is our customer concerns about pretty much the inappropriate behavior that they are seeing around, the city lately, especially city and county of Denver. As more people are using the transit to go back to work, a lot more people are being asked to come back to the office, as well as maybe just taking it out on a weekend night. Like we had great sporting events as well as a wonderful concert this weekend. We saw a lot more riders, which is really great to see. Everyone's top priority is safety and security, and every day our RTD staff work very hard to make sure that our customers get to their destination safely. One of the main areas of concern, like I mentioned, is the downtown Denver area, which includes the Denver Union Station. Our CEO reached out to the mayor to ask for assistance, and we have been working with the city and county of Denver, the Denver Police Department, as well as internal organizations in Denver since April to really begin security enhancements to the bus concourse, which is the underground bus terminal. In the short term right now, we're placing lighting in the area, better illumination. We went out there with a light meter and saw that there was areas that we needed to put better wattage of bulbs, so we've been changing a lot of that. We've also been changing our entrance and exit points and converting stairwells into emergency exits only. That's just to have better pedestrian flow and better access. And one of the things that we're doing, our cleaning staff does an amazing job to begin with, but they are doing even more. They're cleaning a lot more times during the afternoons, a lot of deep cleaning just to make sure that the area is more comfortable for our customers that are waiting for buses or trains for their next destination. That's pretty much short term, but this is a long-term goal, and in the next 12 to 16 months, you are going to see a lot of changes there. Our bus concourse is going to be converted to a paid fare area, and that's really going to allow RTD to restrict access to individuals that are down in the bus terminal to be utilizing our public transportation. RTD is what we do best is we move people, which is either on our buses or trains, and we want to make sure that our systems are being utilized by our customers. So that's going to be a huge enhancement to that area. And that's going to involve a huge redesign of that area. And I was built as we have not had that infrastructure, so it's going to take a lot to change that. And it's going to also be costly. So it's expected to cost anywhere from $10 to $15 million. Now we recognize that, these are expensive upgrades. And under our strategic priority, under financial success, RTD takes very seriously, the management of all of our financial resources. And this project is no exception. That's why we are utilizing funds. We're going to reinvest funds from the return of the approximately $29 million credit risk premium, which was part of the original investment into Union Station. And we're going to utilize that money to implement and construct design improvements, enhance our customer experience, and as well as security enhancements, just so when our customers have a better experience when they're utilizing that station.
Thank you, Steve. Director, how can customers stay up to date on these changes?
Roger, that's an excellent question. RTD believes in communication, collaboration, and cooperation. The first part of that is communication. So we have launched a web page that is solely dedicated to providing updates on all of these facility enhancements that we are implementing at Denver Union Station. And I'll tell you what that web page is, okay? So if you're ready, I'll speak slowly the first time. It's rtd-denver.com/projects/restoring-dus. So that's rtd-denver.com/projects/restoring-dus. Now, in addition to that website, which is a great way to learn about all of these improvements, customers can also sign up for a newsletter when they go onto the RTD website, and that will provide you a lot of that information as well. In addition to these enhancements at Denver Union Station, which we are all fully supportive of and anxious to get in place as soon as possible, RTD is making some other changes to ensure that our customers are safe when traveling. And I know the Chief is going to talk about some of those now, and I want you to listen carefully when he talks about the Transit Watch app, because that's one of my personal favorites. Chief, take it away, sir.
Absolutely, Director. Thank you for that. So as mentioned earlier, I'm interim police chief, which is just a fancy word for acting. I was appointed that in March, and the very first thing I did was I wanted us to be a more proactive policing. I wanted to make sure we were high visible, so I broke our police division up into 4 teams. So we have impact teams. One is dedicated to buses, so you will see our officers out there on bus routes, bus stops, as well as riding the buses. And we get that information from our bus operators as well as our customers where our police should be present at. We also have an impact team for our rail. Very similar. Well, you'll see officers that are going to be on our platforms, whether it be light rail or commuter rail, and they'll also be riding the trains. And again, we get all that information from our customers and our operators on where we need to be. We have a community engagement team. They are going to be visible HOA meetings. So if you want RTD to be present at any of your neighborhood HOA meetings, please reach out to me, and we'll try to get that on our calendar, and they could talk about all of our security as well as our enhancements we're doing at RTD. And lastly, we have a mental health and homeless outreach impact team. For those that don't know, RTD was the very first public transportation agency in the country that did a co-responder unit. We currently have 4 mental health clinicians, and they ride with our police officers, and they go to mental health type calls. And then we also received a federal grant where we were able to hire a homeless outreach coordinator, and that individual who was a bus operator, and he went to school for social work, and now he's now in charge of this homeless outreach coordination, and he reaches out to all the different counties and cities, and he's present at homeless outreach meetings, and is getting information back to our staff on what to direct people that might set up encampments or just needs resources. Another fraction of our police team is our secondary employment officers. So we employ police officers from Denver, Aurora, as well as Thornton PD, and they work for us in a secondary employment capacity. And then probably the ones that most of our customers see daily is our contracted security team. We currently have a security contract where we have a staffing up to 295 security officers, and you'll see them out on our trains and buses as well as our facilities and properties. With all these changes, as well as the partnership with the local police departments, it really helps RTD quickly respond to customer safety issues.
Sometimes we get calls from customers who wonder why the commuter rail lines, including both the A and G line, have armed security, and you just mentioned we have our different security forces. Armed security on each train, but light rail lines do not always have an officer or other security personnel traveling on board. Why is that?
Roger, that's a great question. One we get asked a lot. And the reason why that is the Federal Railroad Administration, better known as FRA, they require a second crew member to be present on all of our commuter rail vehicles. So that's our A line that goes to the airport, our B line in Westminster, our N line in Thornton, as well as our G line to Arvada. But our light rail does not require a second crew member. So what we do is we try to utilize the staff we currently have between our security officers as well as our rail impact teams, and they ride our systems daily, like I had stated earlier. You'll see them visible on platforms as well as trains. They're checking fares and they're ensuring that our customers are traveling safety. One of the things that, and our director had mentioned it earlier, is our Transit Watch app. This is probably our most important tool that we have within our agency. It's a free app that's both on Apple and Android platforms and allows our customers to report security and safety concerns easily and discreetly. It's text-based, so we understand that our customers are on vehicles, whether it be a train or a bus, and they might not be able to go ahead and speak out loud about what they're seeing because they don't want to draw attention to themselves. So this is text-based and goes directly to our police dispatch centers. For those that don't know, we actually have 2 police dispatch centers, one that deals with our commuter rail as well as our bus rapid system which is the Flatiron Flyer, and the second one does our light rails and our buses. For those that don't have a smartphone with the ability to download apps, you could go ahead and call us at 303-299-2911. Whether you're calling us or utilizing the app, the one thing we ask is please be as specific as possible. Let us know what you're seeing, what the situation is. Try to include the location where you're at. And, if there's anyone involved in it, please give us as much of the description as you can. Like I said, our Transit Watch app has the ability to text all that. It also has classification. So if it's drug activity, whatever you may see, we have a multiple number of classifications for you to hit so that our dispatch knows who to send, whether it be security officers or police.
All right, thank you, Chief. Before we get to your questions, here's the answer of our first survey question. We asked, how frequently do you ride RTD services? About 63% of you do not ride RTD currently. We're going to work to change that. 25% said a few times per year, and 6% each said every day and once or twice a month. Thank you for sharing your input. We'll have some more survey questions here in a moment. We appreciate our customers choosing to take transit. We know it's environmentally friendly and helps reduce pollution and congestion. And we also realize that we need to do better. So those who don't currently use transit, we're working hard to improve services and increase the number of individuals who do choose RTD over driving. So we hope you'll give us a try. All right, let's get to your questions. Again, press *3 if you're on the phone and would like to ask a question. And you can also submit online. Here we go. Richard is first. Richard, go ahead.
Hi, Doug. A simple one. When was the last time you rode an RTD bus or a train, and how was your experience?
Well, thank you very much for that question, Richard. The answer is actually was probably now about 2 weeks ago. I used the University of Colorado A line to get out to the airport. I often use the A line. It's just very convenient for me. I do have a parking space downtown, so I don't have to leave my car at the airport, and then I hop on the A line. We've been having some challenges relative to getting that second employee on the line, and so we have had some dropped runs, but it's a very small percentage. I just want to emphasize that. Despite the news stories you may have seen, we're running at about 94% or so of online on-time service for the University of Colorado A line. And then periodically I ride the E line downtown and use that to get to the RTD offices and to other appointments that I have downtown. On the whole, it's been very good. But yes, I have noticed situations in the past at Denver Union Station, and I know that we are working to address that, and it's very comforting to see our transit police as well as the folks from TSA who are out there during the day on the weekdays patrolling some of that area, and some of the Denver Police Department folks as well, not in a confrontational way, but in a supportive way to help everyone who is there using Denver Union Station. Thank you for the question.
All right, thank you. Here's an online question that we received from Shannon. She writes, I often travel alone on RTD. What should I do if I'm suddenly in a situation that makes me feel unsafe? Well,
that one's just too easy, Roger. I'm going to jump in on that. I have to tell you, I am such a believer in the Transit Watch app. And I remind people, if you use that Transit Watch app, you are in instant contact with our Transit Police Command Center. And you can use a text message. You can also use voice, by the way. So you can tap on making a call if you're in a situation where that works, or you can send a text message. You can also send a picture of the situation to us so that we have that. And there are people manning that station 24/7, sitting in front of a screen, waiting by a phone, only waiting for you to reach out and let them know. So as I tell people, if you have the Transit Watch app, you'll never ride alone. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. These are some great questions so far. We appreciate your participation. As a reminder, to ask a question on the phone, just press *3 on your telephone keypad. If you're participating online at rtd-denver.com/town hall, you can ask a question or respond to our polls directly from the streaming player. Let's move on now to our next topic for tonight's call, and that's RTD's Fare Study and Equity Analysis. Chris, would you introduce yourself and provide us an update?
Yeah, hi, Roger. This is Chris Quinn. I am with the RTD Planning Department, and I'm one of the project managers for the ongoing Fare Study and Equity Analysis. We last did a fare study to determine what our fares would be back in 2016, and then we followed that up in 2019 with a review of our past programs. And while we did simplify some things during both of those efforts, we are still hearing from customers that our current fare structure is not only expensive but also confusing to use. And one of RTD's strategic priorities is customer excellence, where we strive to deliver consistent, high-quality customer service. And with that in mind, the Fare Study and Equity Analysis will help us identify areas where we can improve the customer experience when taking transit. So the Fare Study seeks to understand customers' opinions and preferences on current RTD fares and determine how RTD can improve them. Now, to date, RTD has hosted 2 public meetings, one that was conducted in Spanish, and we've also held 3 specific customer feedback panels. And we have also invited customers to provide feedback on the current fare structure using a survey. That survey just closed a couple of weeks ago, but it was available in English, Spanish, Chinese, and Vietnamese. And I'm happy to say that we've received over 2,400 responses. We're just now combing through those to see, run the analysis on those.
I'm sorry, it took me a second to get off mute there, and I apologize for that. Chris, I want to ask you about the community engagement a little bit, because people have expressed a lot of interest in that topic to me as a director. Can you tell us, is the Fare Study over now, or where are we at RTD in the process currently?
Yeah, we're still at pretty much the beginning of the process. That is to say, while we have held 1 round of public meetings to get initial input on what people are thinking of the existing structure, find out what they like, what they don't like. We expect the process to continue through 2022, and we hope to have a recommendation for the Board of Directors consideration in the spring of 23, so approximately a year from now. So yes, there will be more opportunities for customers to share their ideas. And then I also want to note that during the summer, customers will also be able to get involved in the evaluation of conceptual fare options and the associated trade-offs when we are evaluating alternatives to the current fare structure. We have public meetings scheduled for June 23rd in English and June 29th in Spanish. Both of those meetings are at 6 p.m., and we do have additional information on our website for those. I'm not going to give you the web address. If you just type in a search RTD Fare Study, first thing that pops up is the Fare Study page. And if you are interested in attending any of those meetings, you can register there, since those meetings will be virtual. Then later in the fall, we will connect with the public once more, and that's the point where we'll be rolling out a list of final fare alternatives for consideration. I also want to note that before any changes are made to the fare system or any products go into effect, we will also have a series of public hearings where the public can again see the final proposed changes and offer their feedback.
Well, that's very useful, Chris, and I'm glad to hear it. And once again, can you remind us where people can learn more about the process in terms of going to the website and what they just type in, what did you say, fare study?
Yeah, if you just type in RTD fare study into your search bar, the first item that comes up is the web page for the fare study. And on that page, you can sign up for updates. And then also, just as kind of another plug as long as I'm on, want to remind people that RTD currently does offer discounted fares to various groups, including youth, people with disabilities, and seniors. RTD also offers it also offers discounts for low-income residents as part of the LIVE program. And now information on our current fare products are available on the RTD website, which is rtd-denver.com. And at the very top of the banner, there's a section for fares and passes, which includes discount fares as well. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Let's take a moment to ask our second survey question. Again, for callers on the phone, use your telephone keypad to enter the number of your response. And if you're participating online, just type or click your response. Here's that question. Do you believe that RTD fares should be more affordable, even if it results in less service? Press 1 for yes, press 2 for no, and press 3 if you're not sure. Go ahead and record your vote now. I'll share the results with you in just a moment. And while you're voting, we're going to go back to questions. And let's hear from Debbie first. Debbie, go ahead. Hi, Debbie. You're live with our audience.
Yes. Are you going to redeploy the Bronco ride this upcoming season?
Debbie, thank you very much for that question, because that's something that I have heard a lot from people. The Broncos ride was clearly one of our most popular services that we provided. It was back in April of 2020 when we went through the lockdown and we had to do all our changes of service, because we lost at that time something like 75% of our ridership. Imagine that, lost 3/4 of our ridership at that time. So we shut down a number of rides, including the Broncos ride. And we've made modifications to our service since that time, trying to get back something that will provide an alternate. Really, right now, with the limited resources that we have, our service plan is focused pretty much on mobility for essential workers and communities where ridership is high and service is needed the most. So we continued that suspension of the Broncos ride currently. Now, we do want people to know there are ways that they can get to Bronco Stadium. They can take the commuter rail or the light rail to Union Station, and then take either the E or the W line down to the station. And, of course, there are the local bus routes, too, and those routes include Route 30 and Route 31. So I want you to know we're very aware of it. We're doing all that we can, but I'll mention a little bit later on when we talk about workforce, some of that remains our problem, just in being able to find operators for these rides as well. So, Debbie, your question comes to a welcoming heart, because I'm invested in this, and I do want to see it come back, and as soon as we reasonably can, we will. So I thank you for your question.
Thank you, Director. So here are the results of our second survey question. Again, we asked, do you believe that RTD fares should be more affordable, even if it results in less service? 60% of you said yes, 20% said no, and 20% said you're not sure. Thanks again for providing us that feedback, and we'll have a couple more questions later in the call. If you've joined us late, good evening. This is a live virtual telephone town hall hosted by the Regional Transportation District, or RTD. I'm Roger, your moderator, and we are talking with District H Director Doug Tisdale. We also have agency staff joining Director Tisdale to answer your questions. If you'd like to ask a question and you're participating on the phone, press *3 on your keypad. You'll be directed to an operator who will get to your information, and we'll get you live on the call. If you're participating online at rtddenver.com/town hall, you can ask a question or respond to our polls directly from the streaming player. Let's get to another question here. Sean asks, what does RTD do to maintain cleanliness on the buses and trains? Who'd like to take that?
Well, if I can, Roger, let me just start off, and then I'll let staff chime in on this as well. And again, just to reintroduce myself, if people are just joining us, I am Director Doug Tisdale for District H, and I have the privilege of being on the board since I was first elected back in 2016. And being an elected board member means a lot of responsibilities, and one of them is to ensure safety and security. And your safety includes clean buses and trains. And we have an incredible program where nightly we go through and we clean those buses and trains, and we do a thorough cleaning on them on a periodic basis. But when the pandemic hit, we absolutely ramped up our services in such a way that we took into account all of the state-of-the-art disinfectant procedures that were available. And we want you to know that when you ride those buses and trains, they are clean. And if you find that there is a problem and they are not, I want you to reach out to me or reach out to anyone on our staff so that we can be aware of the situation and address it as promptly as we reasonably can. And to reach me, it's very simple. It's Doug Tisdale, Doug.Tisdale at rtd-denver.com. That's Doug.Tisdale at rtd-denver.com. So at least that's the first part of the response, and maybe somebody else wants to supplement. Roger?
I think you did a pretty darn good job there, Director. And it actually is a perfect segue to asking our third survey question. Again, use your telephone keypad to enter the number of your response, or click or enter your response online. Here it is. What factor would increase your likelihood of taking RTD services the most? Press 1 for more affordable fares. Press 2 for a system where you feel safe. Press 3 for more frequent bus and train service. And press 4 for more service coverage in your area. And while you're recording your vote, I'm going to kick this back over to Director Tisdale to introduce our next topic.
Thank you very much, Roger. Let's take a moment now, if we can, ladies and gentlemen, to talk about people power, also known as workforce. You know, at RTD, we have an incredible workforce and a very large workforce. There are over 3,500 employees at RTD. Now, the positions that we have include, obviously, our bus and rail operators. We don't call them drivers, we call them operators. And we have mechanics to keep all of that system running. You know, we've got one of the largest bus fleets in the United States of America. We have over 1,200 buses, and I think we're second only to New York City in the number of buses that we run. In addition to that, obviously, we have administrative staff who help run everything that we need to do to run a business operation, which is what RTD is. One of our strategic priorities at RTD is instilling a sense of employee ownership. And through that employee ownership, we seek to attract and retain a highly skilled and engaged workforce. Remember, we are people who move people. We're very focused on that. We are people who move people. And to help keep our transit system reliable, we're currently hiring for key positions. So if you or a friend or perhaps a family member are looking for a meaningful career in public service, consider applying for one of RTD's open positions. We're hiring positions across the agency, including bus and rail operators and our body shop technicians, along with mechanics. Many of those positions, in fact, are also eligible for a $4,000 signing bonus when you come on. Let me repeat that. Many of these positions are eligible for a $4,000 signing bonus.
You know, Director, you mentioned the bonus for signing up and joining RTD. What are some of the other benefits you would like to share for those considering a career here?
Roger, that's a great question because we approved our new collective bargaining agreement. That's the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement with the Amalgamated Transit Union. That's ATU local number 1001 back in February of this year. That was a major achievement for us to get that agreement negotiated and executed in record time. It offers additional benefits to employees with the positions that are covered under the union contract. And pursuant to that union contract, we offer very competitive wages. You've probably seen the signs around town for different school districts saying, work with us, we'll start you out at $19 an hour. We're now starting at over $24 an hour. And by the time a bus operator, train operator finishes their year and gets elective overtime that they may want and so forth, a first-year employee will make well over $50,000 a year, maybe as much as $60,000 a year, given the overtime. In addition to that, we provide education allowances. We have an excellent retirement savings plan, and we have paid in-house training programs, which are exceptionally valuable to our employees. And that's just a few of them. Now, what you may not know, RTD offers an extensive training program where you can actually learn how to operate a train. You don't have to come in with that experience. And if you're interested in being a bus operator, we'll help you get a commercial driver's license. That's a CDL. And that's a benefit that you will take with you for the rest of your life, no matter how long you're with RTD. So individuals interested in joining RTD are highly encouraged to review the open positions that we have. You'll find those on RTD's website. And again, that's rtd-denver.com/careers. So rtd-denver.com/careers. If you don't see a position right now that you might be interested in, well, check back with us and check back often because we always have something new. So, Roger, I'll tell you, I've been talking a lot. Why don't we pause for a couple of questions and see what people think?
All right, let's go to Albert first. Albert, go ahead.
Good evening. I'd like to thank you guys for putting this on. It's very informative. A lot of sunshine being pumped, though. Sorry. I am a little bit concerned that the estimation of wages versus what it costs to live in the Denver metro area are quite out of proportion. $50,000 a year. Gosh, rent, groceries, gas. It doesn't sound like enough for a starting wage. Although you didn't indicate top-end wages or how long it takes to achieve what would be a livable wage here in this metro area. So my question is, are you looking at your wages compared to other cities, and also the scale and how quickly it is to attain that scale for those employees that put out that effort and deserve it?
Thank you, Albert. Thank you. Those are a couple of great questions there, because first of all, let me answer relative to other cities. We are at this point among the highest of the transit agencies in the United States. Remember, I told you that I chair the Transit Board Members Committee at the American Public Transportation Association, APTA, and APTA is the association that represents all of the transit agencies in the United States and a number of agencies in Canada as well. So I have ready access to these numbers, and we are near the top of agencies in the country relative to what we pay. And you ask a great question, it's almost like I planted it, relative to what happens to the wage scale. Because you see, I said you start out at just over $24 an hour, but at the end of your first year, as I recall, and don't hold me to this, I know it goes to at least $26, and I think it may go to $28, and then there are continuing ramps up. So that, as I say, we have some very, very competitive wages in the transit industry, and by the time you're around 2 or 3 years, you're realistically looking at, with, again, if you want to volunteer for overtime too, because we pay very handsome overtime, you're probably in the $75,000 range, which I have to tell you, I think that's a reasonably livable wage.
Thank you, Director. It's time to talk about Reimagine RTD, the agency's plan for the next 5 years. Chris, would you introduce yourself and kick the topic off?
Yeah, this is Chris Quinn with the Planning Department again. And as far as the Reimagine effort, just a little bit of background. At RTD, we strive to be a strong community partner by providing value to customers as well as to the broader Denver metro region. And this is our first strategic priority, and want to mention that the Reimagine RTD initiative falls under this priority. So Reimagine is a planning process to develop and address transit challenges, as well as answer the question of what's next for RTD. And the current challenges include reductions in ridership resulting from the pandemic and limited options for increasing consistent funding for the future. So the Reimagine RTD effort provides a framework to guide future service decision-making for the district via 2 key components. And those components are, first, a systems optimization plan, which is the redesign of RTD's services to balance the needs of the traveling public with the financial realities facing the agency right now. Second component is a mobility plan for the future, and that identifies RTD's long-term strategies that between now and 2050 to address the region's future mobility needs. Now, we've just completed the first component, that's the systems optimization plan, which has evaluated the near-term service within 5 years. Public and stakeholder comments have been evaluated, and if feasible adjustments have been made to the systems optimization plan. Implementation will be phased over 5 years through 2027, and some of it will be dependent on the availability of our operator resources. RTD is also developing a mobility plan for the future, and as I noted, that's addressing the long-term plan through 2050. We expect the RTD board will act on the final systems optimization plan in the July timeframe, and that'll determine how to move forward for the mobility plan for the future.
All right, thank you, Chris. Let's go back to your questions. And this is a little bit about Reimagine RTD. Richard, go ahead.
Hi there. So taking a look at the bus service that's current and planned under the Reimagine RTD into Highlands Ranch, we have the 0 and the 24 that will take relatively slow trips down Broadway and University. And then we have the 402L, which takes a meandering route, around Highlands Ranch Parkway. In view of the resources, what's Director Tisdale's view of, say, a fast, frequent, high-quality shuttle from Highlands Ranch Town Centre via the site of the proposed Southwest Light Rail Station onto the nearest light rail station at the end of the C&D lines at Littleton Mineral, which would allow people to get into Highlands Ranch quicker, including, building on Debbie's question, getting to Broncos games?
Thank you very much, Richard. You touched on a topic near and dear to my heart and one I've been talking about since I got on the board, and it's what I affectionately refer to as the soiree. You may recall that we did the Southeast Rail Extension a couple of years ago and opened up that project years before we had thought we were going to be able to, because we had substantial support from the local community, from the city of Lone Tree, from Douglas County, from some of the businesses in the area to provide matching funds, which moved us up to the top of the list for federal projects, so that the Federal Transit Administration gave us a very favorable treatment as we were going forward. The soiree is the reciprocal of that. That's the Southwest Rail Extension, SWRE. So the soiree would connect the train into Highlands Ranch. That is, as it currently stands, something that our financial projections tell us we can't do until 20 or 25 years from now. That's not a great answer. It's not a satisfactory answer. But you raise an excellent point when you talk about having something like a shuttle or other enhanced services, because the 402L is intended to serve all of Highlands Ranch, because we took away the 403, which ran south of that, again, on an east-west route. The purpose behind Reimagine is to do a careful study of all of the regions and say, how do we fill in services to alleviate the creation or continuation of transit oases? We have a transit oasis in Highlands Ranch. And so what we're talking about, and what I was about to say hammered, but I won't say that, what I have encouraged staff to consider and to keep foremost in their minds, and they have assured me they're doing this, is enhanced flex ride services. Now, we have the vehicles to provide the flex ride. We're currently short of the operators to provide the flex ride. But with the new CBA, the increased wages, and the ramping up of those wages after even just 1 year, and the signing bonuses, we hope to be able to recruit operators who can man those flex rides and increase and enhance the service throughout all of Highlands Ranch, and particularly including, as you've discussed, the travel from Highlands Ranch Town Center up to the Littleton Mineral Station. And I hope that's responsive to your question, Richard.
Thank you, Director. Here are the results of our third survey question. Again, we asked, what factor would increase your likelihood of taking RTD services the most? 38% said more frequent bus and train services. 38% said a safer system, and 25% said more affordable fares. We'll have one more question in just a moment. But we are going to now take one more question. Let's do another question. And it came in from Terry. Terry writes, I submitted comments earlier this year to be included in the Reimagine RTD plan. when the comment period was open, what will RTD do with the comments they have received?
Yeah, hi, Roger. This is Chris again with the RTD Planning Department. And yeah, earlier this year, RTD launched a public input period for the Reimagine RTD Systems Optimization Plan, which, just as a reminder, that was evaluating services in the nearer term of 5 years. For that, we received over 1,600 comments. Those have been evaluated by the Reimagine RTD team, to determine which ideas something that the agency can move forward with. So, as I noted earlier, we will take the final recommendations to the RTD board in June for review, and then with the intent of the board acting on those in July timeframe.
Thank you, Chris. We've got our service planner, Tegan, with us. Why don't I ask you a question, because it's something that's been on my mind. I subscribe to RTD service alerts for the routes that I ride, and sometimes there are cancellations that happen. What is RTD doing to mitigate cancellations?
Hey, Roger, thank you for the question. I get it a lot, especially for rail services with the drop runs that we have due to operator shortages. We do have an extra board, but unfortunately we don't have quite enough operators at times to cover all of the operators who might potentially call in. And so you'll get a rider alert within a half an hour. When the operator calls in, the rider alerts are sent out within a half an hour of notification that service will not be operating. And then if for some unfortunate circumstance those trips happen to be the last trip of the night, operations makes plans to have somebody else volunteer, or they'll use a supervisor to run the last trip of the night in order to make sure that we're not leaving our customers stranded, but as well as our operators, because our operators use our system in order to get around the system depending on where they get relieved along their routes. And the service alert system, if people aren't aware, I'd recommend subscribing to it. But it also is integrated with our Next Ride and our Trip Planner function. So if we have enough notification, our Next Ride and Trip Planner actually plans your trip to not use those trips that are actually planned to be discontinued for that day due to our operator shortages that we have right now.
Great, thank you. Let's ask our last survey question. Callers, again, use your telephone keypad to enter the number of your response and click or enter your response if you're online. Here it is. How satisfied are you with RTD's services overall? Press 1 for very satisfied. Press 2 for satisfied. Press 3 for somewhat dissatisfied. And press 4 for very dissatisfied. While you're voting, Director, I thought I'd turn it back to you. We're almost out of time this evening. What else would you like to share with the audience about RTD or your district?
Well, I thank you for that. One thing that I want to talk about, and I know I've gotten some questions about this from people because they've heard about this thing called ABT, and they're all very scared because some people say, well, that means I'm no longer going to have a ticket or anything to ride. How am I going to prove that I paid my fare? So let me explain what we're doing. Over the summer, we are going to be changing out our ticketing validators on the buses and on the station platforms. And ABT, or account-based ticketing, is a ticketless way of allowing people to travel on public transportation. And that's a system, quite simply, where customers will use some kind of token. What do I mean by that? Well, for example, a smart card. You know, you've seen the MyRide cards. There will be a new MyRide card that will be your account, and you load funds onto that card, and it charges you accordingly. Or you can use your smartphone. You have an RTD ticketing app, and you have your account loaded there, and you just hold your smartphone up to the validator. Or you can connect a credit card to the system, and it just automatically charges your credit card. This is the way travel is done in a lot of other places in the country, and the dominant way that it's done in Europe. I've experienced that, and they're very sophisticated in how they handle their account-based ticketing system. The really nice thing about this is that new system will implement what we call fare capping. Now, fare capping is a policy that ensures customers always pay the best fare, regardless of when or how they pay for their trips. So you get a trip in the morning, you pay $3, then you take another one in midday because you're past that 3-hour window. You get charged another $3. Then you have to go out to the airport. It will cap you so that you end up paying just the maximum daily fare, and you're not charged separately for each of those. Now, the last thing I want to do, and I know we're very short on time, just to come back to the local issue that is really of importance at District H, and that's to emphasize once again, Reimagine is looking at the services throughout the district, but most particularly in Highlands Ranch, because that's where we have the greatest challenge in terms of covering that whole area and using only the 402L as the east-west connector. And that's why enhanced FlexRide, once we start getting operators to sign on, because we have a much better CBA, collective bargaining agreement, union contract, and we have incentives for people to join RTD, then we'll be able to man those, and the FlexRide will take up those slacks.
Thank you, Director, for that information. Quickly, I'm going to share the results of our last survey question. And here are the results. We asked, how satisfied are you with RTD services overall? 80% are somewhat dissatisfied. We've got 10% very satisfied and 10% satisfied. So we've got some work to do, and we realize that. Thank you again for participating in our questions tonight. We are about at the end of the hour, so Director, do you have some final remarks for our listeners tonight?
Well, thank you very much, Roger. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to everyone. I want to thank you and all of our staff for your very substantive participation this evening. It's been incredible. I want to thank people for sending in their questions, both online and calling in. It's been a great experience for me to hear from you directly, and I want you to know you can always reach out to me, Doug.Tisdale at rtd-denver.com, and I will be happy to respond to your questions. I'm happy I had this chance tonight.